Here are the top 10 skills every prepper should know for an economic collapse or disaster situation. Hey, how's it going? So in this video, I'm going to go over the 10 most important skills that every prepper or survivalist should know in case there's an emergency or disaster situation. Now, these are the most crucial. These are the top 10. I was going to do a longer video, but I decided to break it up into two, so there will be a video following this one, so make sure you check that one out. I'll be doing that one next week, in a week from now. But these are the most important ones. The next ones are ones that maybe you didn't think of that will still be really important in some sort of event. So you want to check that out, ones that maybe you didn't think of or a lot of people haven't thought of. I did a lot of research on that one. I put a lot of my own thoughts into that one. But for this one, these are the most common ones, crucial. If you're just starting out prepping especially, the first 5 are going to be the top of the top 10. I mean, those are the most important. Those are the 5 primary areas that you've probably heard of. I'm not going to go a lot into these because you've probably heard of most of these, or you've started working on these areas and building these skill sets. Now, under each category, there is sort of like sub-skills that go into that main one. So I'm going to kind of keep this general, but I'll talk about some specifics as we go along. So, without further ado, the first one is water. Now, that's a general area, but you need to be able to know how to find water. In an emergency, you need to be able to know how to filter it, how to purify it, how to sanitize it, how to store it. There are so many little skills that go into making sure that you have clean drinking water, water to bathe in, water to cook food. Okay, water is probably the most crucial item to survive. You need water, and you need to be able to know how to find it, how to filter it, purify it, sanitize it, store it. I'm just going to leave it at that. You've probably heard and watched so many videos on water, purification, and storage, but that's the most crucial. Number 2, fire. Now again, these are the top 5 you've probably heard of. Fire, so starting and building a fire, and having multiple ways of doing that. You're not always going to be able to just take a match, light it, and throw it into some leaves. Now, it might work sometimes, but what if it's wet outside? What if you are in the city and you have to do it indoors? And there's fires for different things. Are you just cooking? Are you trying to keep warm? What are you doing with the fire? But you need heat and warmth and to be able to cook food. So you need to know how to do this. It's basic, but you need to know it. That's number 2 of the crucial ones. Number 3, shelter. You need to be able to know how to build shelter, how to find shelter, how to use what you have and turn it into some sort of shelter. And this isn't just a roof over your heads. This is the clothes that you wear, having a change of clothes. If you're in the city, knowing how to find a safe place to take shelter from the elements or from other people, whether it's an abandoned building or someone else's house, depending on the situation. Obviously, I'm not advocating for breaking any laws, but depending on the situation, there might not be any laws left to break. And at that point, you're trying to survive. And that's the type of videos that we're usually talking about here. Otherwise, you are an upstanding, law-abiding citizen. But if you're out in the wilderness, knowing how to use the elements around you to build shelter. That's number 3 of the crucial ones. Number 4, security. And this has a lot of sub-skills in it, but if you are being able to defend yourself personally in self-defense, whether that's some form of martial art or taking a self-defense class, or just knowing some tips and tricks on if an attacker is coming at you, having small tools that you might use, whether it's mace or some brass knuckles or something on your person, depending on what's legal in your state, to defend yourself. Home defense also. Are you able to defend your home from people who might see that you have more than them in an emergency situation and want to take advantage of that, or for other reasons? Are you able to defend your family? Are you able to defend your stuff? And then not everybody is into this, and that's fine, but if you are a person who uses guns knowing how to use them, knowing how to clean them and maintain them, knowing what tool is best for the situation you're in. Okay, that's what they are. A gun is a tool, and used properly, it can be very useful. Used improperly, it can be very destructive. But knowing how to use them, and knowing how to use them well, knowing how to use them with confidence. A lot of people will buy one, store it away, never use it, but then when it's time to use it in an emergency situation, the rational part of your brain is not functioning in those situations, and that's not a situation you want to be in with something that powerful and destructive, or you just blank and don't know how to use it. So getting trained on that and practicing, and knowing how to keep it safe but also available for when you need it. The last of the 5 main ones is food, and this includes hunting, gathering, foraging, growing food, preserving food, storing food, all the different areas that go into acquiring food and having it on hand for when you need it, in case you can't go to the grocery store or the convenience store, in case whatever the situation might be, being able to feed your family, feed yourself, and maybe others who come to your door, depending on your plan in an emergency. So those are the big 5. The rest of these are still important, but they make up the primary 5, and the rest make up the 10. And I do have a bonus at the end here, so stick around. The next one is finances. How prepared are you in your finances? Do you have the skills to weather an economic collapse? Do you have a savings? Are you investing your money? Are you living on a budget? Do you have a plan for your money? Are your expenditures higher than the money that you make and that you bring in? Do you have multiple streams of income or ways of acquiring money in a legal way? Is your stuff, do you have a large amount of items that are easily liquidable, or you can liquidate quickly? Do you have cash on hand, actual cash, in emergency, whether it's on your person or in a place that you store it? Do you have gold or other precious metals in case it came to that where cash didn't mean anything anymore? Do you have the knowledge of all this? They say that you read 3 books on a topic or a subject, and you know more than 90% of the average population. Go read 3 books on finances, whatever that might be, and you know more than the average person around you. Do that with any of these. Actually, I would highly recommend doing that for every single category. Start with the For Dummies series, Finances for Dummies, or whatever it might be. With each of these categories, go find the For Dummies book, and then buy 2 or 3 other books on that subject. Have that in your library, read through them, understand these categories and these very basic but fundamental areas for every prepper and survivalist. Next category is communications. This one's a lower area on my list. I need to work on this one. But understanding how to use a ham radio, understanding multiple forms of communication, whether that's flares or Morse code or smoke signals, or other alternatives of getting a message to someone else, or receiving messages from other people, communicating with other people. Should the grid, should everybody go off the grid, or there's an economic collapse, or an EMP, or whatever it might be, natural disaster. Telephone lines might go down, cell phone towers might go down. Who knows what might happen to satellites, with more interest being put into space, and the military going into space. Who knows what could happen there? Not only maybe they're working, but you want to keep your messages private and communication private. Do you know ways of keeping it private? I'll leave it at that. The next category or area that you need to be skilled in is navigation. And knowing obviously how to use a GPS, those are great, but if those aren't working or you can't trust them, knowing how to read coordinates, how to give coordinates, how to read a map, how to read nature, how to get around just using nature. If you're lost in the woods, how do you get home? Knowing how to read the stars at night. For centuries, thousands of years, that's what was used for navigation, was the stars. So it's possible to use, you just got to learn how. If you don't, you need to be able to get around. Along with that, transportation. So having, yes, extra fuel on hand for your vehicles, also having alternate sources of transportation, whether that's a bike or something else. This includes also having a good pair of walking or hiking shoes and boots. If you have to walk a long distance, knowing your routes, being able to carry what you need to carry, whether that's your stuff or your family or whatever it might be. Having the available transportation to get from point A to point B, or from danger into safety. Excuse me. And the bonus I have here kind of ties into the next video, is a nice segue, so I hope you go check that out next. That'll be coming next week. But it's building a specific skill set in case there is an emergency. Something, though, that is, I'd say monetizable, but money might not be a thing. But something you can use as a trade skill, or to barter with, or something that's very useful in some sort of collapse. That's going to be, you're going to be looking probably back at more some of the skills of old, whether that's metalworking or craftsmanship of something, sewing, farming, things like that. And yes, it's good to be well-rounded in a lot of these areas, but I would highly suggest picking one that suits your interests and skill level already, to a point that you can focus in on and hone in on and be an expert at of some sort. Because that's what's valuable, is people who are an expert at something. You become known as that person in your community after a collapse that can do that thing, and that will be valuable. So picking something that suits you and your lifestyle, maybe something that you already know a little bit about, something that suits your interests, and diving into that and building that as your primary skill. Now, again, you need to be well-rounded in a lot of other skills, but and especially all these crucial top 10 skills you need to be able to confidently apply to your life and your situation. But build a specific one, something that you can even have fun with and do as a hobby. If nothing ever happens, and hopefully nothing ever does happen, then you can at least do it as a hobby, or turn it into a business or something. But that's my last bonus one. So with that, I'm gonna stop there. I hope you check out the next video. It's going to go into the ones that maybe you didn't think about as much. Some of them are a little more specific. They're all still extremely important, but I actually am looking forward to making that one, because a lot of them are fun for me to think about and to work on, and some ones in there that I haven't seen anybody else mention. So go ahead and click on that video, and I'll see you there.